All right, well, we have Justin here today. Thank you for tuning in. As always, we're going to jam out around sales, leadership, grit, mentality, but a little bit more about Justin. He's a serial entrepreneur, investor. He's currently launching a new hedge fund in the next 60 days, so be on the lookout for that. He's also a partner in Kearns Capital private equity firm, and in 2022, he had a big exit when Heartland Foods sold to a PE firm after 87 million in sales. So Justin, welcome, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here. I feel like I haven't done very many pods lately, so this is going to be fun.
I know, man. I'm excited for you. So, when it comes to grid, when it comes to mentality, you're launching a huge project here. Let's start there, man. First and foremost, how did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking for opportunity, and I think and when people say like, "What do you invest in?" I don't asset discriminate. I'm always
Mm,
looking for a competitive advantage of sorts, right? So, for instance, I'm not going to buy Bitcoin at the market value that everybody else can buy it, not because it's not a good investment. I would just prefer to find a strategic advantage. So, in my case, it's if I can mine the Bitcoin at a discount because I've got a connection to get the power cheap in some way, now I've got myself a spread. That's a deal I'll do. So, this fund came about met some institutional traders, guys that were on Wall Street for 20, 30 years. They put together a trading education company and their track record's incredible. And I was just looking at this saying, like, why is there not a fund around this? It's great to
mm,
educate people so they can trade themselves, but let's be serious. Can
yeah.
people really execute at the same level as the best traders in the world? So that's what our hedge fund is centered around. It's a swing trading fund in U.S. equities paired with a sector rotation portfolio. So head trader is actually going to be my dad. He's got 30 years
Uh,
experience trading,
Look at that.
and we're taking tons of research and quantitative technical analysis, all these different things
Mm.
to put together a really nice trading strategy for our clients.
I love that, man. And obviously, it's a big project. It's going to take a while to ramp up. I mean, over the next, 30 to 60 days, it should be finalized. But once it's up, once, everything is in motion, how do you manage that, man? Especially the nerves, the anxiety. Do you have any sort of mental strategies or things that you do in your day-to-day, week-to-week to manage all that?
Really, it's just action. I mean, the worst thing you can do is dwell in the inaction. I think that's how we get
Mm,
stuck. And just not auditing outcomes. I think that took a lot of the pressure off me over time. Just not being so obsessed with if it's going to work or not, any of these
oh,
things, because then
mm,
you just kind of get in paralysis. So yeah, I just look at, okay, what's the next 24 hours that I need to put together to move the needle? And that's what I focus on. It takes a lot of the stress away of the bigger picture because if you look at the mountaintop you want to climb, it'll just overwhelm you and you won't even do anything.
for sure, man. So let's say in this case, right, you have people who are going to be part of the project who you're obviously really close with, right? Your father, things like this. How does then leadership come into play? How are you tackling this project from the lens of leadership? And then we'll get into obviously what leadership means for you and things like that.
Yeah, I think when you're putting together, because right now we're at the formation stage.
Yeah.
So you're putting together your partners. Next is
Hmm.
going to be your management team, your board members. So it's really aligning values at this point and putting
Yeah.
together a team with a shared strategic vision that can grow together. I think a lot of times we look at tactics, strategy, fulfillment, all this stuff that's a little bit further down the road when you need to start the formation of your business with a strategic advantage and alignment. So I think it's one of
Mm,
the things that I've been great at is picking good partners. And one of the things is just like if it's not fun to do it, like if we're not having
yeah.
fun doing it, I'm just not going to work with you. You could be the best in the world at what you do,
Yeah.
but if you're an asshole and you're not fun to work with, like we're not going to want to come to work. So I think
Yes.
that's
Yes.
that's
Yes.
one of the biggest values is do we have all the same ethics, values, mission, and is this fun?
I got you, man. Well, let's talk about that, right? Let's say, for example, you joined a project or, the audience, they've joined a project and initially they thought it was going to be amazing. It's going to be fun and incredible. But lo and behold, the leader or one of the main leaders turns out to be, an asshole and it's hard to work with this person. What would be your advice to them? How do you help them lead through a situation like that?
If you're the person that's dealing with a leader like that?
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is something I didn't do such a great job of when I was younger. I would take
Mm,
people's shit straight up.
that's the thing, yeah.
And now I just realize there's so much opportunity. There's millions of people doing millions of amazing things. You don't ever have to put up with anything that isn't perfect for you.
Mm-hmm. Would you call that like an abundance mindset?
Yeah, because every time that I've either left something or I got let go or whatever, or the thing didn't work out, you always find yourself in a better place.
Yeah.
And you can't see it when you're going through it. So if you're feeling an attachment to like, well, I'm making this amount of money here, and but like the day to day is horrific. It's a toxic workplace. Any of this stuff, leave. Like
Mm-hmm.
you will land somewhere better. I think that's the shortage mentality we have often is we think the game we have is the only game in town.
Yeah, yeah. How to snap out of that though, right? Because let's say someone is stuck in a cycle where they're a sales leader, sales pro, or maybe an investor, and they are in a decent opportunity, and they are dealing with leaders or people in their team that, yeah, it's a fucking grind. Like what can they do, or how do they snap out of the, well, it's not that bad type of mentality?
Yeah, I think by keeping the doors open, by keep networking, meet
Okay.
people. I think a lot of people go into network mode when they need something. And
Mm,
I think a huge hack is always network when you don't need something,
there we go.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
last night, like I didn't really feel like going to the event, but it's like gotta go to the event.
Yeah.
I don't know who I'm
Yeah.
going to meet there. It might not be somebody that is for now, but contacts, put them in your back pocket. Keep a spreadsheet of the people you meet and what they do. It is the most valuable thing because you're going to meet so many people. You're going to get their
Mm-hmm.
contact. It's going to go die on your phone. Like
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
it's almost like I think most people network and then they waste it.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
you need to
true.
have a process to keep track of the relationships in your life.
I love that. Okay, so for you, it's a basic spreadsheet where literally like, first, last name, email, and like notes, or is it more advanced?
Yeah. Yeah, notes and I'll have different ones for different things, right? Because
Okay.
I'm a capital raiser. I'm always
Yeah.
looking for investors. So
Mm-hmm.
I have a whole separate spreadsheet of people that could potentially be limited partners in our funds or,
Mm-hmm.
bring value to the fund at some point. Like if I meet a guy who's like $1 billion crypto fund manager, I don't do crypto, but I still want him on that sheet in case, who knows, maybe we launch a crypto fund at some point and I want that guy on the board, you know?
Right, right.
So yeah, I think you got a network for your future too that you don't even know is going to be there someday.
That's right, brother. Well, let's talk about that, right? On the sales side, on the influence side, for example, right? You find somebody, they're busy. How do you connect with them without chasing? Because I think that's a big deal as well. Maybe you found them online, or maybe you ran into them not in an in-person event. You know they'll be valuable, but how do you approach without chasing?
Yeah, this is like such a delicate thing, right? I
Yeah.
think, take a second to actually care, right?
Mm,
Seek to understand before being understood. So if you're going to reach out to someone on social media, like this sounds so basic, but the amount of DMs I get from people who don't even follow me, like
yeah.
if you send me a DM and you don't follow me, I immediately think you're just in it for something for yourself. You want to sell me something, whatever, and I just delete it. So,
Mm-hmm.
follow the person, like give support their brand. Go like and comment on their post first, and then say something in that message that knows that you actually looked into them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And never try to sell or ask for anything in the first communication.
I know, man. Beyond that, do you have any other rules or things that you've seen as patterns where it's like, hey, Gary Vee has his famous, jab, jab, right? But like for you, as you've been networking for many, many years and have created tremendous amounts of relationships, what does work in that case? Any sort of patterns?
Yeah, I think the thing that's worked the best for me is you get into a quick conversation. Like, hey, I don't know. It looks like we might have some synergies. Would love to just hop on a call and meet you, get to know you a
Mm-hmm.
little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you ask people like, hey, what's a great referral for you right now? What's a roadblock that you're dealing with? Maybe I have somebody that could help you. Like, what do you need in your life and business right now? So if you ask questions like that and you try to help somebody out first, almost everybody's going to talk to you.
Yeah, yeah, right. And I think the big thing there, it goes without saying, is the intention, dude, right? Like you actually, well, first of all, you do have a solid network, right? And then you possibly can connect them. But the intention
Mhm.
from your perspective is let me see how I can serve. So back to this concept of leadership, how do you define that in your own life? How do you define what a great leader is, and then ultimately how are you applying that now in your life in these different projects?
Yeah, I mean, I used to think, you could manage people into action, and I just don't believe that anymore.
Mm.
I think you
What
lead by
shifted though? I
example.
think that's important. Like what shifted for you? Because that's a big difference, right?
I think that leaders have a lot of ego and
Uh,
think they are more important than they are, or that they can motivate people into things, which there's a certain amount of that.
yeah.
But I think great leaders lead by example, and they don't ask anyone to do things that they either have not done in the past and have like risen to where they are, or would not be willing to do themselves. So when you lead by example, it's a lot easier to ask people to show up the way they
Yeah.
need to, because the biggest disconnect there is somebody sitting on their high perch mountaintop,
Mm-hmm.
king of the
Mm-hmm.
castle, saying, do as I say, not as I do. That's like
Right.
the
Right.
ugliest, most demotivating thing that happens in the
Yes.
business world.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think we've all been there where that is the case, but it goes back to this idea of like we'll have opportunities, right? Like network so that you don't need to stay stuck in some sort of scenario that doesn't serve you ultimately.
Yeah, and treat people with respect.
Mm,
If I have people on my sales team or employees, like whatever it is, I want to act interested in them. I want to learn about their personal life, what's important to them. It's like if you're assembling a team, like you want them to run through a brick wall for you. How are you going to do
exactly.
that? By building a relationship with them, not telling them if they don't hit
Mm,
their KPIs or getting fired. It's like
right, right, right. That's it's so it al- it's like it's so obvious, right, when we look at it. But maybe also because I guess you and I are both the same in that sense. We're willing to get into the trenches. We're willing to take the calls and not just be the leader, but also like do the work. But how do you help a leader, a sales leader, or an executive like have more self-awareness around something as simple as like, hey, are you showing that you care about your people? Like how do you create maybe that shift?
it's really tough. You have to, I think, care about your emotional intelligence. When somebody's underperforming, more often than not, especially if they've shown the capabilities, something's going on in their personal life. Like,
Mm,
let's grab a one-on-one. Like, hey, what's going on? You doing okay?
yeah.
Like let's figure out what's going on here. Not like, hey, you're really slacking. Your numbers are falling, and if you don't fix it by the end of the month, you know what's going to happen. We're going to let you go. It's like,
Right, right,
it's
right.
so just impersonal, and like that doesn't help somebody fix the problem or want to perform better.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because actually it tends to do the opposite. It's almost like, well, like they don't see it or they're not even caring, right? Or whatever people like their self-talk is. So let's talk about those individuals, right? Let's say now we're getting into the sales side of things, a closer. What are some of the top like mentalities as a closer, right? So for example, in that case, like, well, don't get stuck in a victim mode either. Like find a way to pivot out of that, maybe through skills training. But what are some of the top like mentalities as a closer, as a sales professional that you should have?
It is such a just a state thing. Like getting yourself into the highest level of authenticity, great vibe, vibration, whatever you want to call it. I think the way
Mm,
you show up and transfer energy to someone is most of the battle in sales. And
mm-hmm.
being an extreme subject matter expert on whatever it is you're selling. So if you can
Yeah.
have a very great attitude, genuinely transfer that enthusiasm, but do it from an educational place of that you really know your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes somebody believe and buy.
Mm-hmm. Why is that, right? Because it sounds so straightforward. Like, hey, just have a good energy about you and like know what you're fucking talking about. But why does that get lost in all these like maybe trainings out there where it's maybe hyper tactical or do these steps? Why do you think people miss these important pieces?
It's so interesting, right? Because the other side of the coin works, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
learning like the traditional high ticket sales funnel that makes me just want to throw up. it's like that's just not my style. Like that definitely
Right.
does work, or companies wouldn't run it.
Yeah.
So again, that might work for someone who wants to be super structured, follow the script,
Mm,
blah blah blah. Like if that's your authenticity, cool, that'll
I see.
work
I
for
see.
you. So I think it's more so of you figuring out who you are, what your
Hmm.
vibe is, and then finding the right culture, the right offer, and the right, place for you to be as authentic to you as you are and still perform in the role.
Hmm. So, recently, did you ever find yourself in a place where you had the attitude and you had the grit and just that mentality, but then maybe you weren't the subject matter expert yet? Has that been a case for you? If so, how did you move faster in the direction of knowing your stuff? Did you study more? Or like what did you do?
Yeah, so there's no substitute for getting the reps. So,
Hmm.
like when I'm doing something new, for instance, like when your schedule gets busy
Yeah.
and you want to sell only to a certain demographic, you pre-qualify extremely hard, right? You only want to talk
Hmm.
to qualified prospects.
Yeah.
When I'm brand new at something, I'm like, throw every lead at me. I'm not trying to make
Uh,
sales. I'm trying to get data and feedback and course adjust and figure out my process.
mm,
So, take 100 calls. Don't even pay attention to the results. You should be looking for, okay, this happened here. It caused me to lose this, or it sent the prospect here. I didn't want that. So you have to have like a hyper sense of awareness and course correction until you figure out the whole cadence that gets you to the finish line. And the only
absolutely.
way to do it is through just
Yeah, right. Like the
just
basics,
doing
bro.
it.
Just getting in there. It's interesting because, like, of course, we're sales professionals or anybody like a coach or business owner. There's a bit of ego where we're like, well, I don't want to talk to so and so because they're not qualified. But from your perspective, it's not about the quality, but about just increasing what your knowledge or experience in that situation. No?
Yeah, I mean, how do I get better? Do more of it.
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
you're new, you got to just relentlessly do it and not care about the results. Because if you're so focused on the
Mm,
outcomes, again, that's what makes you quit. That's what makes you depressed. That's what reduces your state. All of these things are because you're focused on the outcomes and not the process and the enjoyment
I
of figuring it
see.
out.
Okay, so that's a very important thread, right? It's like very process oriented. So for you, because we all have these situations, life happens, something happens that throws us off state. So for you, what is your general process? Do you have a morning routine, evening routine that gets you kind of prepared and primed for a good attitude?
Yes and no. On this one, the non-negotiables, like I'm going to the gym every day. Like
Okay.
I'm gonna make sure I do that. I move my body. Because look, a lot of this is just it matters what you look like. It matters that you take care of yourself. It matters that when someone's first impression of you, they go, "Wow, that's someone I can trust because they have discipline, they have accountability." And you say that or you don't just on eye
Mm,
contact,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
It's just like it is what it is, but
yeah.
like,
Right.
people can say what they want about it, but like if you can't take care of your body and you're overweight, like I'm certainly not going to invest with you. Like I'm
Mm,
not going to believe that you can take care of my investment if you can't take care of
yeah,
yourself,
that's true.
right?
That's true.
So I think that really matters just how you present yourself. And if you're focused on taking care of yourself, even when you go through really hard things, as long as you can focus on what you can control, like you can't focus on when the market's bad, your product stops
Mm,
working, you got to pivot, or something
mm,
happens in the economy, or the trades go against you, or a real estate deal blows up. Like there's so many bad things that are going to happen. Someone steals from you,
yeah.
you know, all those things are going to happen. And you can't control that. But if you controlled what you could during the day and you judge yourself on that, you can keep your state decent even in bad times.
Mm. Do you have any go-to, like for example, Tony Robbins talks about like life is happening for me, not to me. Do you have mantras like that ground you, that bring you back to like, okay, shit's happening, but also let's do the work. Like, do you have anything that can trigger you in a good sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's just going, okay, cool. I feel like crap. I'm gonna do it anyways. We're gonna get to work, right? And yeah, like I did all that stuff. Who was it? Was it like Tom Hopkins back in the day, the sales trainer? He's like, I'm alive, I'm
Mm.
alert, and I feel
Oh
great.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
alive,
yeah, yeah,
alert, and
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel great. Right?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of
Like
them. So
yeah, a
I
ton of
think,
them. Yeah.
yeah, and look, I think a great tool that a lot of people don't utilize now is like you can talk to Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Like I do
Yeah,
that. I'm like, oh, this just hit me. I know what I should be doing, but like, give me some more motivation here. Talk
I
me through
see, I
this, and the
see.
thing will just like completely change your state.
That's crazy. Yeah, man. And see, that's where, yeah, that's where I think, what would you call it? So is it creativity, resourcefulness, right? Can really play into not just your state, your attitude, but also your results. You know, you're finding a way, you're looking for a way, but behind that or beneath that, there's a belief. So for you, what is your core belief around that? Is it like I'm resourceful or I find a way, I make a way? Like, what's your belief around that?
My belief around this is that most of us don't and will never know what hard is. Like on a basic level, we have indoor plumbing, we have
Mm,
lights, we have all these things. We have, a thermostat, right?
yeah.
So, you
Wow.
know,
Yeah.
it's like,
Debate, you know.
yeah, like
Mm,
so a basic person in today's world has a better life than the richest people in the world 200 years ago. So I think it's all perspective. And of course, it never feels like that when you're going
yeah.
through something, but you
Mm,
have to be able to course correct. And like life is
mhm.
not supposed to be happy all the time. So,
Yeah.
it's like the accomplishments are great, the winning is great, but when you're going through adversity, it's like cool. Like if I can be a little sick and twisted and enjoy this because this is really where you get to find out who you are.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
it's easy to perform when things are good. Like
That's true.
so when you're in those recessions in life, whether it's your personal life, your business, whatever, it's like cool. Like I can't wait to tell this story when I'm out of it.
Okay. So do you have a recent example where that happened, where you were like, okay, shit, we're in the trenches, like we got to get through it. And then obviously, like, what happened? If you can share maybe an example.
Totally. I mean, you got all kinds of things that happen. I had some really tough investments not go well in the last few years. We had a huge exit, sold the company, made a
Yeah.
ton of money, and that was in the middle of 2022. We bought a lot of
Yeah.
multifamily real estate, and that was the top of the market. And
Oh shit.
those deals are suffering. And then my first hedge fund went to $20 million, and then we got wrapped up in some fraud, and it was like
Mm,
lawsuits. I mean, here we are 3 years later, and I'm still fighting class actions with my partners, and
mm,
litigation is warfare. But and this is why it's so important to get in rooms with people more successful than you. I was dealing with so much
yeah.
crap at the same time that I stopped going to the rooms. Like I just didn't want to be around the people that were killing it. It's like cool.
Yeah,
I'm not in
man.
that season right now. Like leave me alone. And then that was the worst attitude ever because I went to a really exclusive mastermind last week where people were doing billions in revenue,
Oh shit.
and we're talking about everything. And I'm like, I'm not telling anybody about what I'm going through because like
Right.
blah blah. And then it's like no, like everybody in that room has either been through horrific lawsuits or they're currently in them right now, and you would never know it by looking at their social
Yeah.
media,
Yeah,
right?
of course, for sure. Yeah. Yeah,
Like if
yeah.
you if you look at
Never,
my
yeah.
Instagram, it's like, oh man, his life's amazing. It's like, but you don't see the millions of dollars
Yeah.
that are being lost because of having nothing to do with me. I just got wrapped up in someone wants to sue me for something I didn't even do, and
Mm,
they're trying to bleed you out, or you're being successful into a market and you get attacked online.
mm,
People will defame you,
yeah.
and all of these people I was with last week that are more successful than me, they have more of that happening to them. So now it's
That's
like
wild, man.
it's like, wow, this is an indicator of success, moving in the right direction. Don't feel bad about it. Just be grateful that you could even create those problems.
Right, right. And when you talk about it, I can tell because sometimes when we remember those things, it's frustrating, right? We get frustrated or we get annoyed, but when you share that, you're sharing it from the perspective of it's just part of the process. You know, it's almost like it's a given, right? Uh how long did it take you to actually like fully believe in that, or did something happen where you were like, okay, I have to just keep going, or like how do you manage that state?
Every day is just keeping going, and I think it's been that way the whole time, even in the
Mm,
depths of it. Now, your ability to emotionally regulate, you're going to have
mm,
good days, you're going to have bad days. There's going to be days where you're hyping yourself up and you're like, you know what, I feel good, like I can fight today. And there's going to be
yeah.
days where you just like, I don't have it in me, and that's called being human.
Mm-hmm,
Like it's
mm-hmm,
okay.
mm-hmm.
So I think the fastest way out of the recessions in your life is to give
Mm,
yourself some grace. And
mm,
then in a sick and twisted way, it's like, well, I should have gone harder sooner. I would have already gone through this and I'd be on to a bigger problem. So it's like we're
wow,
trying to
yeah.
run from these problems and all these things that are going to happen. And I did that for a long time. I played it safe, played it really
Mm,
safe, and I had small incremental growth. And then the second I went big, it went big and then it crashed hard.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like, wait a minute. So I just did something huge, lost it, and learned a lot in like a 2 year period where I did 10 years of being scared to grow.
Mm,
I didn't have any losses, but I was only getting a little better.
right, right,
So
right.
if you're going to be an entrepreneur
There you
or
go.
in sales, any of this stuff, the more violent you can make these swings, the higher you end up.
That's interesting, man. I've never heard of that. But it's true, right? So that level of awareness, are you getting it because, the Chat GPT and you are like it's a sounding board, or do you journal, or do you have a coach? Like how have you been able to get, that level of awareness, man?
Experience, like it's in the early days, I read all the books and
Mm-hmm.
obsessed with podcasts and obsessed with learning. And I'm not saying that you don't do that. You absolutely do that.
Mm-hmm.
But you're still going to learn more from the doing than anything
From the
else,
film. Mm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, experience is the best teacher there is. And some things you're going to have to experience to learn and really internalize it. Because what happens when you learn it from experience, it's one thing to read about it.
That's true.
Like what got me through our big investment loss was watching the Bill Ackman reel of him losing 4 billion,
That's
loses his
real.
marriage, like, you know,
Mm.
getting sued, all these things. And I'm like, I am literally living that exact thing right now at a smaller scale. And it gives you it's almost like coding. Like your body and your
Right.
brain is getting coded for the first
Mm-hmm.
experience of something so that you can go now do something bigger, better. And then when it happens
Yeah.
again, you're prepared for it, right? It's like the first time you do anything, the feeling is 10x than the
Yeah.
second time you do it. So really, if
Mm-hmm.
you can force yourself to have more firsts,
There we go. There
you
we
get
go.
further
Yeah.
faster.
That's right, man. That's so true, dude. And see, that's the thing. It's like when you're going through it, it's obviously it's challenging, right? But then to your point, when you actually, I think the big theme here is perspective, isn't it? It's just like get perspective. Like, okay, we're going through shit. Yes, and who isn't? Or yes, and like, dude, you're gonna get grow out of it, right? Like just keep going. So this is interesting. What's maybe a new perspective that you've picked up that before maybe you maybe didn't believe in, or if you can think about maybe a new mentality, a new perspective beyond the things we've talked about that is really serving you in this stage in your life?
I think that everyone is in their own mental prison.
Mm,
Everyone. So don't give yourself such a hard time for yours. You know, it's like I was watching the Hormozy Tony
oh
Robbins
yeah,
interview, right?
yeah, that's true.
And it's like
Yeah.
everyone's like, "Oh, I wish I could be Alex Hormozy." It's like,
Mm,
really? Do you
yeah,
really want to be in the prison that he's in, where he doesn't want to do anything except work, and he doesn't believe happiness is a real thing because
yeah,
he can't experience it. He's not interested in doing anything except building. Like,
right,
like
right.
you think you want someone's life and what it
That's wild,
creates,
dude.
right? But everyone's in their own mental prison.
That's
So
fucking crazy.
I think envy's the thief of joy, comparison's the thief of joy, all these things. And look, it's easy to preach this stuff.
I know, yeah. I
Act
hear
in
you.
it, live in it is not a 100% thing for anyone. I think you can just
Yeah.
move the needle with your self-awareness and just get a little bit better with balancing, your emotions of I don't love everything in my life today and I want X. But
Hmm.
the time goes and really it's like that destination is just going to create a new one. So you got to figure out how to enjoy just every single day for what it is. If you get a
Hmm.
beautiful sunset, if you get,
Yeah.
you know, a fun interaction in the
Hmm.
grocery store, like you got to appreciate little things like that sip of coffee with the sunrise. It doesn't matter how much money you have, that's
That's true.
always like a great thing to be able to enjoy your day.
Yeah, because sometimes we get stuck in this mode of like postponing our happiness, right? Or like one day, or when I'm a Hormozy, or when I'm a Tony Robbins, or when I'm a this or that investor, this fund. But to your point, well, when you actually study those people at those levels, you start to find out, wait, there's things there that you could enjoy now. Like why not? So let's probably wrap up with that. Like from your perspective, even your own life, like what are some of the blockers that keep us from gratitude and experiencing or valuing the little moments? What are some of the blockers that we can be, on the lookout for?
I think it's just lack of intentionality, and we all do that. So you got to figure out what it is for you. What's worked for me at times when I lose myself is, start the day just writing what you're grateful for. Like write it down, like little
Mm,
gratitude journal. It's really hard to have a bad day when you list out the things that you're grateful for
yeah,
you know
yeah,
because inevitably somebody's going to be having a bad day. They're going to bring that energy into your life, and you're either going to get upset and angry and all these things, or you could be
yeah.
like, oh no, like I wrote down this morning, like I'm grateful for another day. I'm grateful that I got
Mm,
my arms and legs. Like
right.
sometimes we forget just how much we really do have.
It's crazy, dude. Yeah, yeah. It really, it's just that's interesting because a silly example. Last year, long story short, I was eating some chicken and then a fucking chicken bone got stuck in my throat, right? And then I was like, fuck, like, and I tried to swallow, and it just wasn't going. And then ChatGPT. And then it fucking goes, oh, you got to be careful because if you force it, you could tear like something, right? And then now I start overthinking, like, fuck, like I should probably go to the ER. Long story short, that got resolved shortly after with some banana and like, something simple. But it really like triggered this gratitude of like something as simple as like, yeah, I can breathe comfortably, I can swallow comfortably, I'm healthy, or I'm this, I'm that. And sometimes we get lost in our future and our goals, right? So what other blockers or what other things like have you experienced that if we were to just maybe be more aware and more intentional, we can ultimately be happy? Because I think that's the theme here, no? Just be good.
Yeah, it's man, like this is just the hardest topic because it's just not rocket science, and you're gonna go through seasons where you're just not gonna feel like it. And
Yeah.
one of the things I've learned is sometimes it's very valuable to just sit and think and not put
Mm,
pressure, um, and take a day, like watch
yeah, dude.
Netflix all day,
Mm,
like because what
yeah,
I've realized is like, my first business doing door-to-door sales, it was like, you
yeah.
know, how many appointments a day can I do? I'd end up working 30, 60, 90 days straight, because I'm
Mm,
like trying to hit these goals and all this stuff. And I'd lived no life and
yeah.
produced a good income. But then when you have the experience of finding the right vehicle where I produced the same income in a day, I was like,
Mm,
I was like,
that's crazy.
whoa, more,
Right.
more, more is not always the answer. Sometimes it's think, be strategic, find the right
Mm,
opportunity, and don't put so much pressure on it. And,
that's true.
you might end up in a better place.
That's right. So on that topic, as you think of this launch in the next 60 days, how can people connect or serve you, or what are you looking for in LPs, or like what is it that you're on a hunt for in a good way at this point?
Yeah, so we want to raise $100 million for this fund, which in the fund world is pretty small. But the strategies we're going to be using, we want to keep it on the smaller side so we can get the outsized returns that we've been modeling. And
Mm,
I think we're going to be able to do based off of the data and the testing going in, solid 2 to 4% months,
mm,
hedged very well, and you have to be a qualified investor. It's a
mm,
506c. So, minimum is going to be 100K at first. Once we hit 10 million AUM, we'll probably bump that to 250. So,
mm.
but what I always say on this topic is, hedge funds, real estate syndications, oil and gas projects, like there's so many different types of funds. It's
Yeah.
very overwhelming for people. But if you are an accredited investor, you're a high earner, and you just want to learn about the world, like please, like just have a meeting with me. At the very least, I'll give you an education on what to look for when you do vet a
Mm,
fund. So that's my capital raising process. Is it's really just educational, And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, here are all the ways we're going to protect your money. Here are all the things that I've experienced losing a lot of money that you don't have to go through. And this is what you look for. Whether you're betting me or somebody else, I want someone to know everything that I know so that they can protect themselves if they do make a private placement investment, because it is the wild west
Yeah.
of the investment world and you have to be with the right people.
100%. So how can people connect with you? Do you have a preferred method, or yeah, how can ultimately people can tap in?
Yeah, Instagram seems to be the place where most people hit me up, but I'm on all the social medias. It's at Justin Freishtat, and there's only one of me in the world with the last name like that, so I'm not too hard to find.
Right, right. Well, Justin, as always, a pleasure, man. So many gems. We appreciate you, but thank you so much, and congrats on the new fund.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you.